like to get started. We have one item here in open session called labor update, and then we'll go into closed session. Jennifer Shimbry.
Good morning, Mayor, members of the City Council. Jennifer Shimbry, Deputy Director of Employee Relations. First, we want to let the Council know that we did reach a tentative agreement with the Association of Legal Professionals on a full MOA. It's an MOA for fiscal year 12-13, so it does expire June 30th, 2013. The ALP membership has ratified that agreement and is on the Council agenda for approval on June 18th. In front of you are some wage proposals that we've received in the last week from OE3, AMSP, and CAMP. I do want to clarify on OE3's proposals. They were presented to us as options, not as a package. And that concludes our presentation.
Okay, we have no request to speak, so we're adjourning in a closed session. We'll be back here at 1:30. Good afternoon. I'd like to call the San Jose City Council meeting to order for June 11th, 2013. Councilor Oliverio will introduce the invocator in a minute. Before we introduce the invocator, I just wanted to take note of the fact that 50 years ago today, on this evening, John F. Kennedy, President, launched the effort for a comprehensive Civil Rights Act, which was passed after his death in 1964 and became the most important law of the 20th century. That was 50 years ago tonight. He gave that speech to launch that historic moment in time. Councilmember Oliverio, would you like to introduce the invocator?
Thank you, Mayor Reed. Good afternoon, Mayor Reed, council members, and audience. I'm here to introduce Rabbi Levine from Congregation Al-Echad, and thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you to Honorable Mayor Reed, the City Council, in particular to my esteemed council member Pierluigi Oliverio for inviting me to address you today. President Dwight D. Eisenhower once remarked, "The supreme quality for leadership is unquestionably integrity. Without it, no real success is possible." Indeed, the Bible itself makes the point that integrity and honesty is of the essential traits for a leader. Moses, the premier leader of the Jewish nation, is introduced to us in the Bible as a shepherd. The first verse of the 3rd chapter of Exodus states, "And Moses was shepherding the sheep of Jethro, his father-in-law, priest of Midian. He led the sheep across the wilderness and came to the mountain of God, to Horeb, Sinai." Note that it says across the wilderness. What is the meaning of that phrase? Rashi, the great French 11th century biblical commentator, citing the ancient Medrash Tanchuma, comments, Moses did this to distance himself from theft so that the sheep would not graze on the fields of others. Though it was common for shepherds of that time to allow their flocks to graze in whatever pasture they can find, Moses made a point of bringing Jethro's flocks to great distances to the ownerless pastures of Sinai in order to ensure that they would not graze in other people's property. This additional phrase then is describing and exemplifying for us Moses' impeccable integrity. With this understanding, we can perceive the connection that emerges between the two clauses of the phrase. He led the sheep across the wilderness and came to the mountain of God. Moses took great pains to avoid having the sheep graze on the pastures of others, and as a result, he came to the mountain of God. The journey to the mountain of God, the journey to greatness, begins with Moses distancing himself from theft. It begins with integrity and respect for the property of others. Of course, it does not end there, Moses had achieved far greater things by this point than simply avoiding theft. And yet, this measure reminds us that the pursuit of greatness begins with the pursuit of goodness. Moses succeeded in rising to the highest levels of prophecy only after he mastered the basic, elementary values of integrity and ethical conduct. Unfortunately, the past few weeks, both on a county and national level, we have seen a lack of integrity and honesty amongst some of our government leaders. The disappointment that this generates in decent individuals is due to the spark of divine goodness in each of us that detests falsehood, especially in leaders. These occurrences are hurtful in and of themselves, and their ripple effect on society is catastrophic. As Ralph Waldo Emerson observed, every violation of truth is not only a sort of suicide in a liar, but is a stab at the health of human society. May you, Honorable Mayor Reed, and City Council members follow in the ways of Moses and serve as examples to our great city of honesty and trustworthiness. May you be blessed with the moral character, integrity, and wisdom to inspire and to allow us to put our faith in you and in our city government. And may all other blessings follow, and let us say amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item of business are the orders of the day. Are there any changes to the printed agenda that we need to consider? I have no requests. Motion? We have a motion to approve orders of the day. City Manager?
Mayor, I may be speaking out of turn here. It's my understanding that staff wanted to defer item 2.9 under orders. Is that not correct, Gloria?
No, the item is ready to go.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we have a motion to approve orders of the day with no changes to the agenda. On that motion, all in favor? Opposed? None opposed. The orders are approved. Closed session report, City Attorney.
There is no report.
We'll now take up the ceremonial items. I'd like to start by inviting Vice Mayor NGUYEN and Councilmember HERRERA to join me at the podium. Today we're presenting a proclamation declaring June 20th as World Refugee Day in the city of San Jose. Councilmember HERRERA has the details.
Thank you, Mayor and Vice Mayor NGUYEN, for joining me down here, and we're happy to welcome representatives from Refugee and Immigrant Forum of Santa Clara County, Naomi Peace, Reza Obadai, Zoya Laser, and we also want to welcome those refugee clients that are here today in the audience. It's an honor to have all of you joining us in recognizing June 20th, 2013 as World Refugee Day. Also, I have another name, Teresa Samuel Boko from Catholic Charities is also with us. So World Refugee Day is an opportunity to honor the courage, the strength, and determination of all people who are forced to flee their homes under threat of persecution, conflict, and violence as they continue to heal, contribute to the community, grow, and flourish. And although the United States has welcomed refugees from all over the world since 1975, and organizations like the Refugee and Immigrant Forum have assisted refugees since 1992, World Refugee was formally established in June 20th, 2001, when the United Nations General Assembly declared it as World Refugee Day, and it marked the 50th anniversary of the 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugees. There are 43.7 million refugees and internally displaced people around the world, and 80% of these people are women and children, many living in camps for decades, and deprived of basic human rights, including the freedom of movement and access to adequate medical care. Right here in San Jose, we have an incredibly vibrant community, the Vietnamese community. There's about 100,000 strong. That's 10% of our population. Many of them refugees from very difficult circumstances. And our vice mayor here today is part of that community. World Refugee Day also serves to support that one refugee family torn apart by war, one refugee family without shelter, or one refugee family forced to leave everything they knew behind is too many. And today, San Jose joins communities throughout the world, such as the Refugee and Immigrant Forum of Santa Clara County, that facilitates the successful integration of refugees and immigrants into local communities through collaboration, resource sharing, and fostering community awareness. I thank the Refugee and Immigrant Forum for their commitment and generosity to provide refugees protection and assistance during difficult times. And with that said, I'm honored to proclaim World Refugee Day in San Jose together with Mayor Reed, Vice Mayor Nguyen, and my council colleagues. And Mayor Reed, would you please present the commendation, or the proclamation, to Naomi Peace, who will receive it on behalf of the Refugee and Immigrant Forum of Santa Clara County.
On behalf of the Refugee and Immigrant Forum of Santa Clara County, its members past and present, and the community it serves, I'm honored to accept this proclamation in recognition of World Refugee Day 2013. For 21 years, the Forum has been working collaboratively to meet the needs of thousands of refugees who resettled in Santa Clara County and who now call this community their home. With your help and support, the Forum has grown and adapted to many changes in our environment, in policy, and in resources. With your continued help and support, we look forward to another 20 years and more of service to and celebration of our refugee community. Thank you for having us, and we hope to see you this Friday at our annual 21st celebration of World Refugee Day at Campbell Community Center. Thank you.
I'd like to invite Councilmembers Campos and Chu to join Councilmember Herrera and me at the podium as we present a commendation to Urvi Gupta, founder of the One in Math tutoring program. Councilmember Herrera has the details.
It is my distinct pleasure, along with Councilmember Campos and Councilmember Chu, to present Urvi Gupta with this commendation today. And I can see Urvi Gupta's parents are here, and we're so happy that they're here and can join in, and also the librarians here from Berryessa and Evergreen Library. Urvi Gupta is a District 8 resident and a sophomore at Harker School. She's the founder of One in Math program, an editor for Harker's yearbook program, and a member of the varsity volleyball team. She's been an outstanding resident by volunteering her time to support our youth throughout the city. Urvi created a math tutoring program called One in Math in local San Jose public libraries for students in kindergarten through 3rd grade. The program is designed to teach them simple techniques and help master math skills, including addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Since its inception in November 2011, One in Math has served over 250 students who attend weekly sessions at either the Evergreen, Berryessa, or Hillview Library. Urvi has created all of the teaching instructions and has been responsible for training more than 25 teen volunteers. Urvi was recently awarded San Jose Public Library and Evergreen Branch Library Volunteer of the Year for 2013. She was also, you can clap. She was also named Berryessa Branch Library Volunteer of the Year in 2013, and now Urvi's working towards a One in Math summer program, which will include parent training sessions and weekly open hours. She hopes that parents can teach their students in the comfort of their own home with assistance and prizes provided by the program. She hopes that this new model will reach more students and have a bigger impact on the community. It gives me great pleasure to present Urvi with this commendation for all of her volunteer service and commitment to helping the youth in the San Jose community. So, Mayor Reed, would you please present Irby on behalf of Councilmember Chu, Councilmember Campos, and myself. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this recognition. I'm so honored. First of all, I'd like to thank Mayor Reed and the City Council members, Rose Herrera, Xavier Campos, and Kansen Chu, for recognizing my program and making me believe that there is no small act when it comes to giving back to the community. I would also like to thank Tommy Goodwin, who saw the value in my program and nominated me, and also thank you to Ms. Jennifer Gonzalez, who first contacted me about the recognition and put everything together. I'm truly grateful to everyone who has made One in Math possible. My sincere thanks to Ms. Vidya Columbi and Ms. Nina Petrova of the library, who put their trust in me when I first came to them with my program, and I really would not be here today without their hard work and dedication. I would also like to thank librarians Ms. Candace Tran, Ms. Trina Richborg, and Ms. Mary Nunez for the continuous support. Also, many thanks to the Friends of the Library for the generosity and their donations of everything from ink to prizes to keep One in Math a free program and running smoothly. Next, I would like to give a big thanks to all my volunteers who share my vision and help me run One in Math week after week with boundless passion and enthusiasm. And last but definitely not least, a huge thanks to my family who have been my backbone, who inspire me, encourage me, support me, and taught me the value of service and the joy of paying it forward. They never let me forget that every dream is possible, no matter how big or how small. One in Math has taught me so much and given me so much joy. Working with these kids and seeing their smiles motivates me and inspires me to push myself to new limits. I dream that my program will reach more and more kids and help them take away their fear of math, but more importantly, help them develop confidence in themselves so they can succeed in whatever they set out to do. Thank you so much.
For our next item, I'd like to invite Councilor Liccardo to join me at the podium as we present a commendation to Embarcadero Realty and the Fairmont Hotel for more than doubling their landfill diversion rates in less than a year. Councilor Liccardo has the details.
Thank you, Mayor. And with us are Carrie Romanow, our Director of Environmental Services, along with Larry Wick and Michael Miller from the Fairmont. And Tim Giacomini is seated with the Republic. Feel free to come on down, Tim, unless you need to take photos. And as well as representative from Embarcadero Realty, Randy Schweido. Thank you very much, Randy, for being here. Randy Schweido also as well. And why are we celebrating this moment? Well, although we read about a lot of problems in this city, one problem you probably don't often read about is the fact that we're running out of land. And specifically, we're running out of landfill space. And a few years ago, we figured out by 2022, we would run out completely of landfill space. And short of bulldozing neighborhoods to add landfills, we thought we'd find a better way to deal with waste. And so with the Mayor's Green Vision, we're off on a 15-year plan to divert 100% of our waste one way or another. And what has been really critical in this effort has been this new commercial recycling contract with Republic, which is vastly improving the diversion rate for many of our customers here in the city. And two of the most stellar examples here are Fairmont, which has improved its diversion rate from a little under 3% to over 78% in only a few months. And over at the Embarcadero Realty, where they deal with many apartment complexes, they work with janitorial and on-site cafe staff to improve their diversion rate, and then ultimately reached out to various tenant groups within their projects and increased their diversion rate from 36% to almost 80%, which is extraordinary, certainly for commercial waste recycling. And so we're thrilled to be able to celebrate this success in the early part of this program. And with that, I'd ask the Mayor to present these commendations. Thank you, Mayor.
Today's agenda is a little bit out of the usual sequence because we have some fiscal items to take up first before we get into the substantive items. So we're taking item 3.6, the library parcel tax rates, and then 3.7, municipal water system rate increases, and then 3.8, the budget message, and 3.9, operating capital budgets and schedule fees and charges first, and then we'll come back to the consent calendar. So I want to move first to item 3.6, the library parcel tax rates for fiscal year 2013-14. We have a motion to approve. I have no request to speak on this item. On the motion to approve the library parcel tax rates, all in favor? Opposed? None opposed. That's approved. Item 3.7, municipal water system rate increase for 2013-14. We have a motion to approve.
Excuse me.
City Clerk?
Subsequent to Environmental Services Department supplemental memorandum dated June 5th, 2013, the City Clerk's office has received valid written protests representing 6 additional customers. The total number of valid written protests is 86 for the municipal water system rate increase.
All right, we have 86 protests, and then I have a request to speak. Leon Dryden. Anybody else here to protest the water rate increase or speak on this item? This is the time.
Good afternoon, Mayor and the City Council. My name is Leon Dryden, a resident of San Jose. You make difficult decisions when allocating money to support our city. I myself find the details extremely frustrating and hard to comprehend. Like most of the residents of San Jose, not having the time to take this task on, I put my trust in your hands. The proposed water rate increase within the fiscal year 2013-2014 budget was a shock for many reasons. To note a few, the amount up to 9% at a time when money is tight for most of us. The timing, this should be addressed in the fiscal year 2019-2020, not this year. Knowing water is a limited resource, I ask, why is this not planned years in advance? It is our life. We are unable to live without it. It should not be beyond our reach. I have a few questions. What drives this cost increase and its immediate need? What are those who conserve paying for those who don't? The rate increase is structured across the board at the present tier rate. It places a burden on those who conserve and those who can least afford it by doing without to stay within their budget. For those who can afford the cost, there is little incentive to conserve. We are paying for this waste due to consumption demands exceeding our ability to produce. The council is planning our city to grow, which means more water consumption in the near future. Why are the residents paying for this cost and growth when it should be placed on those entering the system, or at least those with the greater consumption? Demand better from those who presented this rate increase and give us hope that we have placed our trust in the right people. A no vote on the proposed rate increase is asked at this time. Thank you very much.
That includes the public testimony. Total protests?
The total of all written protests during the public protest period of 86, together with the one speaker protesting the rate changes today, represents less than 0.5% of all customers impacted by the change in water retail rates.
Right. I presume we can move ahead, City Attorney? Yes, we can move ahead. Councilmember LICCARDO.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one question for staff. I understand this isn't, for the most part, this is not our doing with regard to our system, but I had a question about the O&M reserve and unrestricted dollars that are expected. I certainly understand the fact that there are major capital improvement programs that have to take place, particularly in SFPUC's program, because of long neglected capital needs that are now, of course, being imposed on ratepayers many years after the fact. And certainly we see very large increases. I heard 20% for East Bay Mud, and certainly very large increases in other systems like Great Oaks and San Jose Water. But with regard to San Jose Muni, when you look at the breakdown, the analysis on page 2 of the $2 million in increased cost, 1.3 million of that is increase in O&M reserve and unrestricted reserves. And that comes in a year after we had a $750,000 surplus in revenue. So what I'm trying to understand is why approximately 65% of the increased cost is coming in the form of a need to increase reserves when we're coming off a year with positive revenue, net revenue.
Jeff Provenzano, Division Manager, Municipal Water System. So starting in the next fiscal year coming up, we are switching our budgetary practice. We always had an O&M reserve set aside for contingencies, for what-if scenarios, but the way we calculated our reserve was looking at our total amount of reserves that we had, and we were trying to keep it right around the 3-month worth of operating expenditures. That was a little bit different than other divisions and departments were doing it, so we're switching now to having a fixed O&M reserve of 2 months, but in order to do that all at one time would have been a tremendous rate increase, so now we have it spread out over a 4-year period to slowly ramp up to that.
So is this the first of those 4 years?
Yes.
And we'll see approximately $1.3 million in increase in that reserve each year, assuming the reserve stays constant?
Correct.
Okay. And I think I understand everything you said except for one thing, which was you said we went from a 3-month reserve to a 2-month reserve, but somehow we're spending more money. Could you explain that?
Sure. Our previous practice was to look at all the reserves and add them up to be a total of 3 months. And so that included a disability reserve, a rate stabilization reserve, and a couple other ones in there. And that total pot of reserve money, our goal was to have a 3-month set aside. And so the O&M reserve kind of fluctuated depending on revenue, weather, economy, kind of fluctuate a little bit up and down. As long as we were around that 3-month goal, then we consider ourselves okay. And so now that we're switching to the practice of having just the O&M reserve as 2-month worth of expenditures, it requires that one line item to increase a little bit.
Okay, so you're really disaggregating the risks in a way and buying a separate insurance policy for each risk. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And could you just explain why that's preferable? I understand it's safer, but why is that preferable to just putting a lot of money in a pot and saying we're insuring against lots of risk?
I'd like to call up Jennifer McGuire, please, if she's available.
I do the same thing. Every chance I can, I punt to Jennifer.
Generally, GFOA says you should have a 2-month operations and maintenance pot of money, so that's what we've kind of done with all of our utility funds. And so that particular fund does have a rate stabilization reserve, which is not necessarily common in all of the rest of our funds. And so that one, if we have some sort of problem with our water supply or something and we need to increase rates, we can go into that reserve and stabilize it for our customers.
Okay. So you refer to GOFA, and
GFOA.
That's the national board that sets the standards?
For finance officers, Government Finance Officers Association.
Okay. So that's the best practice and we're following it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Herrera.
Hold on, Jennifer. So maybe it's the person from Muni Water's answer here, but so how does that benefit, just help me, a real life situation, how does that benefit our customers? So I'm guessing if there was a major earthquake or there was something that disrupted the water supply, that gives us the ability then to not have to jack up rates hundreds of %.
Right.
And instead, rate stabilization means that we could buffer that.
Right. And that was
it would help customers who might be on fixed incomes or wouldn't be able to shoulder that burden. Is that,
that's
am I
correct.
thinking that right way?
That's correct. And so you can not have a huge spike in the rates if we do have a need to increase rates because we need our water supply. So it does stabilize it over time, and you can use it to smooth rates. The % increase that is recommended to go into effect for 13-14 is primarily for our potable water supply cost increase that we're passing through to the customers. We have a little bit of increase on our own city O&M because we obviously have our own costs that go up, but it's primarily for our own water costs that we're passing through to the customers.
Okay, and Jeffrey, right, so before this rate stabilization was sort of aggregated with all the other reserves, is that right?
I guess that's correct.
We're separating it out now, so that made it...
Well, it's been separated out for a little bit, but he's talking about the calculation of what's in each reserve.
Okay. And then this question, I guess, is for Jeffrey. So how do we compare, how does Muni Water compare to the rates at Santa Clara and Great Oaks and San Jose Water?
A good example is on page 3 of the memo. San Jose is on the relatively low end for local water agencies for a cost of water and what we're providing to our customers. We are about, well, we're proposing to be around $55 for a typical homeowner versus Santa Clara, which is will be right around $51. And Great Oaks is the only one local in the San Jose area, and they're down around $43. But other than that, everyone is higher to significantly.
And San Jose's like, their proposed bill is $76.79, I guess, right?
I'm sorry?
San Jose Water, I'm looking at the same page you were just referring to.
They are, San Jose Water Company is projected to be around $77 if their rate increase passes.
Yeah, if I round that up, right. 21.5% increase, so quite a bit higher than our 8% that we're talking about here.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I think that concludes the council discussion. We have a motion to approve item 3.7. On that motion, all in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Motion is approved. Our next items 3.8 and 3.9, the budget message and the budgets I'm going to take in one hearing, although we'll vote separately. We started a hearing last night. Many people came to speak. We're continuing that hearing today, so people who spoke yesterday, we're not going to repeat the hearing, but council obviously heard it, so I'm going to take people who haven't spoken. Please come on down when I call your name so you're close to the microphone. There is room in the front row, or you can stand. Alejandra Herrera, Aurelia Sanchez, Hewitt Joyner.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Alejandra Herrera, and I'm here on behalf of Destination Home. Jennifer Loving is actually out of the country and is very sorry that she can't be here today to thank you herself. So on behalf of Destination Home, I would like to thank you for including $4 million in the budget over the next 2 years toward rapid rehousing strategies for homeless men, women, and children that are living in our encampments. These funds will allow us to create a rapid rehousing demonstration project where we can prove the efficacy of a coordinated place-based strategy, one that will have measured outcomes and a targeted approach. We look forward to working with Leslie Corsilia and the city's homelessness response team as we move forward. Thank you again for your commitment and dedication in ending homelessness in our city. Thank you.
Ray Sanchez, Hewitt Joyner, Justin Ontiveros.
Hello, I reside in the Spartan Keys neighborhood, and I'm here to thank you. I don't come here too often to do that, so it's a nice change. I think I know most of the residents in our neighborhood, and our volunteers are very grateful to Sam and everyone who approved this. I think like we're like most of neighborhoods in the city. We don't have enough community centers to fill the needs of our children and residents, and it's just nice to come here and thank you. And like I said, I know I'm truly grateful.
Hewitt Joyner, Justin Ontiveros, Mark Collins.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, City Manager. I'm here to speak against one specific item in the budget that deals with the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force and the BEST program. I'm not here to speak against the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force. because I believe in everything that they do, and we've been part of that organization since 2005, providing services to African American youth, particularly those who are tied up in the system. I'm speaking because we've been left out of the budget process for some reason. We're asking for reconsideration based on the fact that we've been approved as a proposal for the next cycle, and we serve three specific areas that I think are priority. The first is that we serve adjudicated youth. We're working with some of the toughest kids in the system. And that requires not a shotgun approach. That requires time and care. And with the administration from time to time, we've had disagreements in terms of quality versus quantity. We prefer quality. And the reason we do that is because people or young people who've had a life of crime and live in environments that aren't conducive to their rehabilitation require a little bit more help. And secondly, we are a priority area. And when I talk about priority area, we're talking about working with adjudicated youth and aftercare programs, which is something that was pointed out as something that was needed for the next cycle.
Sorry, your time is up.
Okay.
Justin Ontiveros, Mark Collins, Fred Ferrer.
Good afternoon, Mayor. I'm here to speak about the Aquarius project and the budget cuts. I just have to say that this project has helped me personally with court, with getting off the streets, get a job, what have it. I really just don't really know what to say. I'm kind of nervous, to tell you the truth, first time talking to the mayor. I don't know, you know, I mean, we need this program. I mean, I need this program. I know other individuals that need it as well, you know, and they help a lot in the community, you know, and I used to live in a good neighborhood, you know, and it's going bad right now, you know. I mean, it's on the news and everything, you know, and I'm tired of living like that. I'm tired of, you know, being unsafe in my own house, you know, and if you strip this away from us, then what else do we have? You know, you're basically going to hand the city over to these people, you know. I mean, this project has helped me out a lot, and I know it's helped out a lot of people as well, you know. But I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Mark Collins, Fred Ferrer, Jenny Nussbaum.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. See a familiar face, Mr. KHAMIS. Congratulations on your election. You came to my neighborhood to do your promotions. I am the street team worker for the Aquarius Project, which a program I started in the Boys Ranch, Mr. Lerma. And yeah, I've been doing this for a few years now, and I see that we've did a little to a lot to help the communities in the Southern Division where I work at predominantly, and there's been a large increase in violence. And I honestly think that if you were to pull our funding with the little money that we get at this moment, it would do a detrimental issue to our community. So I didn't want to come up here and take too much of your time, but if you guys could help out a little bit, by all means, please do so, because I grew up in the neighborhood of Playa del Rey, and it wasn't always a fun neighborhood, still not as fun as it is today. So just look deep down in your hearts and look out for these kids that are trying to grow up in these gang-infested neighborhoods. Thank you.
Fred Ferrer, Jenny Nussbaum, Bob Hennessy.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Frederick Ferrer. I'm the CEO of the Health Trust. I'm here today to ask support for the $250,000 for the Healthy Corner Store program in San Jose. The program directly responds to the commitment made by this council of Envision 2040. It's also a strategy that supports small business development. In San Jose, too many convenience stores in low-income communities carry too much unhealthy food. And of the 95 corner stores, about 80% of those are in low-income communities. A breakdown of those stores by council district was included in the memo from Councilmember Rocha. Last year, the Health Trust provided funding to assess the readiness and willingness of corner store owners in the communities to make changes to their stores in order to stock, market, and sell healthier options, and to assess interest from the residents. Some key findings are the residents cited cost, access, or lack of stores, and transportation as the three primary barriers to purchasing healthier food. When asked of store owners which products are most requested, the overwhelming response was fresh food and fruits and vegetables. The perceived barriers to carrying these included lack of equipment, resources, space, and the fear of food spoiling or not knowing how to source the products. 85% of the owners said they would be interested in selling produce if it was made easier and profitable. So there's a clear willingness on the part of the store owners and interest in the community. And based on this, we're proposing this idea so that over the next 3 years, 50 stores in San Jose will receive the technical assistance and training they'll need to be able to implement these strategies. The Health Trust is willing to commit $1 million of its own resources to this project, and we urge your support in this really important health as well as economic development program. Thank you.
Jenny Nussbaum, Bob Hennessy.
Thank you. My name is Jenny Nussbaum. I'm a senior planner, and I've been with the city for more than 13 years. Today, I am representing all the city planners in our request for comprehensive salary increases in the pay plan for planners and senior planners. We have provided the council with data that clearly show we are 20 to 30% underpaid compared to benchmark cities in our MOU. We also have fewer planners per number of residents than these other benchmark cities. What this means is that we have a heavier workload of development projects and public outreach for a lot less pay than planners in other cities. The result is that we are losing planners to these other cities. In fact, more than 20 have left in the last few years. In the past year, we hired brand new planners at near top step, and some of them have already left. High turnover costs the city in time expended in hiring and training these new planners. Time is money. With fewer experienced planners, the city cannot work at the speed of business. Planners will stay with the city if they are paid fairly. Please help us help the city with economic development. We request that you please revise the pay plan and increase salaries for planners and senior planners now so we can be more competitive in this economy. Thank you.
Bob Hennessy.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, my name is Bob Hennessy, the Executive Director of the San Jose Conservation Corps. The San Jose Conservation, I'm talking about the homeless issue. The San Jose Conservation Corps has been involved in busting up encampments since 1988 along the Guadalupe River. Back then there was only a few people homeless. Now it is, as you all know, totally out of control. So I ask council members to support Council Member Sam Farr and the Mayor's funding towards encampments and the homeless. I know that the county has put up $4 million, so I'm asking that we support everything we can do for the homeless. I know that we as the Conservation Corps can provide education training for those over 18, enabling them to get a high school diploma. We can provide training in recycling, environmental projects, and landscape. We can provide our young people to work alongside the homeless in building out a shelter for themselves in abandoned buildings like churches, schools, and other health clinics and other buildings that have been abandoned. We should pay them a minimum wage of $10 an hour. These people deserve anything we can do for them. I would suggest we get vouchers and hand them out vouchers and enable them to move into motels. We have families, we have kids, we have infants in the creeks all over the place. So I would suggest immediate action and encourage everybody to come up with solutions. We're putting together, our board of directors and our staff are putting together a meeting for the community on the 27th of June over at our Burgerside facility. So we'd like for you folks to, City Council and other City of San Jose employees, to participate and help. Come with solutions so we can do something to help these poor people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That concludes the public testimony on these related budget items. So we'll turn first to item 3.8, and that is the budget message. I'd like to welcome everybody to the end, and congratulations on getting to the end of a long process that started in January. We've had many opportunities for people to get engaged in the budget process, and many of our residents have taken us up on that, and we appreciate their involvement in helping us figure out what is the right thing to do for our community. It's a great relief to everybody that we're here not to discuss what we're going to cut, who we're going to lay off in order to close a major shortfall. We had 10 years of cutting due to budget shortfalls, cutting core services, and shrinking our workforce by 2,000 jobs. All that was driven by a decade of skyrocketing retirement costs. And 2 years ago, we were sitting right here facing a $115 million shortfall. But the council took some bold actions, some difficult actions, adopted a fiscal reform plan, and we've been in the process of digging our way out. That included 10% cuts in total compensation to all of our employees, outsourcing work. We did pension and health care reforms. We reduced our payroll 2 years ago by 24%. With a combination of all the things that we had to do. The good news is retirement costs this next fiscal year will be $80 million less than the Independent Retirement Board's actuaries projected when we were sitting here a couple of years ago. That's the good news. The bad news, retirement costs continue to climb, and next year will be $277 million approximately with this budget. It's about a 13% increase in 1 year, and will consume most of our increases in revenues. In fact, we'll be paying next year, come July 1st, $200 million a year more than we paid 10 years ago. Those are huge, staggering numbers, and the retirement boards tell us that we should expect significant increases in retirement costs for at least another decade. Obviously, we need savings from our Measure B pension reforms to offset those increases. All that is being challenged. As a result, some of the spending in this budget, such as the police substation and pay raises in the next fiscal year, is contingent upon the outcome of the challenge in court. So we're not in a position where we can restore the 10% pay cuts, but we are happy to be able to be offering to all of our bargaining units some pay raises. We can't restore services to the January 2011 levels, which is the goal adopted by this council, but we can begin to improve and enhance some core services, and we're starting with public safety. In the police department, my recommendations include setting aside $10 million to cover outstanding offers of raises and retention bonuses for police officers in this next year, and another $6 million in the following year. The budget includes $9 million to pay for the increase in the cost of retirement benefits for police officers. The budget adds $4 million in overtime funds to help backfill for patrol and investigation vacancies and maintain the excellent work that our officers are doing through our suppression cars. The budget allocates $3 million in one-time funding for a higher head program and recruiting and training for new police officers to try to get them hired at faster rates. The budget adds over $1 million for 21 community service officers, 3 crime prevention specialists, and 1 crime and intelligence analyst, all to support our sworn police officers and help them do what they do best. In the fire department, we're allocating $8 million in funding to cover the cost of 49 firefighters who've been with us thanks to a grant from the federal government that was underwritten with federal SAFER funds that are expiring. The fire department budget includes $8 million of additional spending to cover the increase in the cost of retirement benefits for firefighters. In housing and parks, recreation, and neighborhood services, we're adding 4 park rangers as part of the $7.3 million in one-time funds for a 2-year strategy to deal with homeless camps and look at our rapid rehousing, long-term housing strategies. We're adding $3 million for gang prevention and intervention efforts to the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force. In the library department, we're increasing total library hours by over 20% more than they were a year ago as we sat here. The library budget will go up by more than 8% with $4 million of cost to operate the 4 new libraries we just opened, and presumably 2% raises for our librarian staff. We are not going to increase our authorized strength in the police department. Manager's budget addendum number 32 lays out the facts and concludes that we will not reach authorized strength until 2014, and what we need this year is a higher head reserve, which is included in the budget. We are not increasing the swarm staff for the burglary unit. Until we get back to full staffing, officers would have to be pulled away from violent crimes to staff the unit. A better plan is to use the 21 community service officers to work on burglaries to allow the officers to focus on violent crimes. The recommendations in my message come at the end of this community-based budgeting process that we've been going through. It reflects the values and priorities of our community, and I'm hopeful that my colleagues will support the message. I do have some small number of clarifications and modifications to the message that I'd like to have incorporated in the motion. First is considering the 4 park rangers that we're hiring and the work that we're asking them to do, especially around homelessness. I'd like to refer to the manager to consider including the park rangers in the public safety CSA in next year's budget. NBA number 29 regarding gaming control reorganization is incorporated in my recommendations, but I don't want it to be seen as a change in the council direction that's been previously given, most recently as February of 2012, regarding how we license our employees. Based on the city auditor's recommendation, this is not a change in direction. On our homeless rapid rehousing, for which we're allocating $4 million for 2 years, I think it would be important to have that effort reported back to the Neighborhood Service and Education Committee as a work plan item so that we can look at the effectiveness of what we're doing. And then on the downtown ice rink capital repairs, it's a little bit ambiguous the way the caption and the language is. So the $70,000 in one-time funding for the replacement of the chiller equipment and other capital repairs in hopes that they have a little bit of money left to fix some other items. And with that, I would request my colleagues support this message and that we move ahead with the budget after a very long, arduous effort to get here. I appreciate everybody's support and help. Many council colleagues have invested a lot of time and effort and energy going to community meetings, obviously sitting through many, many hours of study sessions. But we are at the end of a process that works very well to make sure our community is engaged. And with that, I would request that you support the message. Vice Mayor Nguyen.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. Are we going to take 3.8 and 3.9 together? Would that be one motion, or you want to take it separately?
I'd like to take a separate motion. First on 3.8, just the budget message,
okay.
And then we'll get into the budget elements as a separate motion.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, I just wanted to, first of all, thank the mayor for his steadfast leadership and commitment to public safety. I look at the mayor's budget proposal, and I see that we still have brighter days ahead in the city of San Jose, and with this coming fiscal year, we can be sure to witness better core services that the city can provide for our residents. The mayor's budget proposal clearly reflects the needs of the community, which we heard loud and clear from residents during the community budget meetings. We had 11 of them throughout the city of San Jose. The community's priorities, which Mayor Reed incorporated in his budget message, included increased spending for public safety, expand the use of cameras to help deter tagging and other crimes, continue funding for children's health initiative or health insurance and senior nutritious programs, traffic calming and permanent housing for homeless individuals, and additional funding for homeless encampment cleanups, which I want to thank Councilmember LICCARDO for his budget document. The work of the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force continues to be a leading model of prevention and intervention work in the nation. So ongoing funding will allow the task force to serve at-risk and gang-involved youth, both men and women, and present them with other alternatives instead of submitting themselves to the gang lifestyle. I also wanted to highlight a few other budget items that are worth mentioning. The allocation of $25,000 for the Franklin McKinley Children's Initiative summer programming. This funding will provide much-needed recreational activities in the Santee neighborhood during the summer. This is especially important because this is a community in our city that lacks open space, and is also a neighborhood where gang activities are more visible than recreational activities. I also want to thank the mayor for including funding to help upkeep our cultural facilities. I'm grateful to Councilmember Don Rocha for submitting a budget document for this very important item. I'm also excited about the possibility of implementing a multi-housing occupancy permit pilot program. This self-inspection program will allow code enforcement officers to focus their inspection on blighted units and complexes rather than the ones that are following the rules. And finally, I just wanted to really thank the city employees for your continuous hard work and dedication to our city. We understand that starting July 1st, a lot of changes will take place and a lot of core services will be provided to our residents. But without your hard work and commitment to the city, none of this stuff will happen. So once again, I'm very grateful to General McGuire and your staff for really working long hours, including the weekends, to put this budget in place. So with that, I want to make a motion to approve the Mayor June budget message for fiscal year 2013-2014. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion. I just want to clarify that the motion includes the modifications I made earlier.
Yes, it does, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Councilmember Constant.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I want to say that I'm very thankful that we're almost done with this, and also thankful that this has been a much easier year to deal with the budget than many of our previous years in the extraordinarily high deficits that needed to be resolved year after year after year. I appreciate the messages, prioritization of public safety. I agree that the time needed to recruit, hire, and train officers is such that we won't be able to increase the authorized strength. But I'm very hopeful that we will quickly get to our authorized strength and that we will, in subsequent budget years, push to increase that authorized staffing and get us back on to the path of restoring our police staffing to where it was just a few short years ago. I thank you also for your recommendation to move the rangers, the park rangers, into the public safety CSA for next year and subsequent budget years. I think that's really important. We've talked many times up here and had numerous budget documents presented talking about the importance of our park rangers and the important role that they play in public safety. But when it comes to budgeting, we've always been trading off or discussing the cost benefits of park rangers and park maintenance, where I really think it belongs in the discussion of public safety because they do provide such a critical role. I also appreciate that there is a modest reduction to the rollover in our council political offices budgets. It's a significant reduction, but I think we have a long way to go. I'll just reiterate a point that I make every year, that when we have over, for previous years, $2 million, this year over $1 million that are rebudgeted in the political offices year after year, it clearly demonstrates that the money is not necessary to perform the duties that we and our staffs do on a daily basis. I think there's a lot of one-time needs that the city has that we could use those monies for. I understand that you have to eat an elephant one bite at a time, and I appreciate the big bite we're taking this year, but I hope that will continue in future years so that we are more in line with standard budgeting practices where rollovers get returned to the general fund unless they're spoken for or encumbered. With that, thanks to Jennifer and Hall, her staff. I know you guys work pretty much all year long on the budget. It seems like you'll probably take a week off and come back and start thinking about what we're going to do next year. And I know that there's never been a time when my staff or I have called you guys where you haven't gotten right back to us and had the answer immediately. So we really appreciate that. Thanks.
I don't think they're going to get a week off because they've got to take this and turn it into something else and take that and turn it into something else, and the fiscal year starts real soon. But maybe in July I'll get to slow down a little bit. Councilmember KHAMIS.
Yes, I too want to thank you, Mayor, for a very balanced and very responsive budget. It's my first budget, and I'm very proud to support this. I want to definitely thank staff, especially Jennifer, for all her hard work. I'm extremely. I was very, very pleased to see the MBA number 11, which helps us get our debts down, and I'm really happy, and I want to keep encouraging you to look for ways to reduce our debts, because I think that is a great way to give the city some flexibility and the ability to help our employees and provide more services. So thank you very much for looking at ways that we can reduce our debts. I also want to thank staff for their great work. I did have a small amendment that I'd like to make on my budget. Budget document number 8 requested from my own rollover budget $3,500 to go to provide Wi-Fi for the Almaden Community Center upstairs, because it doesn't have it. And I was wondering if we can have a friendly amendment to take it from my budget and put it into to use there.
I don't think we need a budget to do that.
Mayor, I think we can just charge the project with council members' concurrence. Is that not right, Jennifer? So no special adjustment necessary if that's your intent.
Okay. Well, I didn't know how to work it yet.
Okay.
So
City manager will make it happen.
didn't do it the right way.
It's always easy when you have money that you want to move someplace else.
Yes. Well, it's nice to have a little surplus in your budget. And I want to thank all the staff for their hard work. I also had a brief question about. I think actually, never mind. You answered it in your opening documents. So thank you very much.
Councilor Rocha.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm going to join the choruses of thanking you for this. And I think Councilmember KHAMIS said it perfectly when he used the word balance. This is the third one that I've been involved in as a council member. And I think this is probably the best one, in my opinion, in terms of the balancing act you did with all the different interests. I mean, I also want to thank my colleagues in that, because a lot of this comes from the request from the folks up here on the dais and a recognition of what was important. I mean, the public safety focus, we heard from our residents pretty loud and clear, and you've made a great attempt to address that. Any items from pavement management to the homelessness issue to cultural facilities to, I can go on and on and on from the budget requests that I saw from my colleagues, and I think they did a fantastic job, too, of representing their constituents. Rather than go on and on about a memo that I had written, I could probably just maybe make this short and request a friendly amendment to include the memo that I submitted dated June 7th.
Councilmember Rocha, this is for the...
This is the budget action pertaining to South San Jose Police Substation.
Sorry, just give me a minute here. We have...
That's a memorandum recommending deferral of the opening of the South San Jose Club Station and reallocating the funding.
I could make the case, or I could, I'm assuming you read it, and I just didn't want to waste everyone's time in pleading why I think this is a significant issue, and let me touch on it briefly. To me, this, I'm going to use that word again, a significant policy and budget decision, which is why I'm struggling with the direction as it stands in pursuing this. I think we have an opportunity here to maybe take a pause on an investment that may be not ripe to make this decision. There's nothing precluding us from pursuing this in future years. But I think given our public safety issues and our staffing issue with the police department, asking them to focus on a significant investment, and I don't just mean financially, but I also mean time and staff work, this is a serious issue. And I was hoping to get a little pause here for the next year and see how we go in terms of our staffing levels and our retention and our public safety.
Councilmember Rocha, I appreciate the request, but when I attended the meeting in Councilmember KHAMIS' district, in District 10, we also heard from residents that opening the South San Jose Police substation was something that they care about. And I also heard that from Councilmember KALRA, who's the substation is actually in his district. Now, I really appreciate you're asking funding that go toward payment, maintenance, infrastructure backlog, and also the health trust corner stores, which is something that I completely support. But I don't think this is the right time for us to defer the opening. So I'm afraid I cannot accept your friendly amendment.
And I recognize the interest that you heard from a couple different parts of the area, but as you've seen in some of my efforts, I'm requesting dollars for cultural facilities, which is nowhere near my district. The recognition that while it may be a benefit to particular areas of our council districts, I was looking for more of a bigger vision in terms of the city-wide interest, and whether, again, this is what we should be asking our police department or city manager's office to invest their time in. So I appreciate your consideration of that. Let me then make a case in terms of removing this recommendation and asking for your support as a friendly amendment to direct the city manager to identify funding for the Health Trust Corner Store program.
Yes, and I actually had a conversation with Fred over at the Health Trust. Again, this is something I support, but obviously, well, personally, I don't have enough information about this. I like, if possible, if staff can speak to this, and if we can actually probably come back at another time where you can submit a memo to rules so we can hear more from staff in regards to where would we find the funding to fund a program such as this. It requires $1.3 million, $250,000, going toward the program, but $1.3 million is a large sum of money.
250 on our side.
Right. So I'm not comfortable.
Central Reserve, there's a number of places we could pull a little bit here and a little bit there.
Do you have any money from the office budget that you can allocate to this?
Councilmember KHAMIS has. Again, I'm happy to put my money where my mouth is. Yes, but I think me as a standalone, I still would take the support of this council for the investment for the remaining.
Let me just say again that I appreciate the intent. I think I would support this if it comes as a separate item at another time when we have an opportunity to give staff to study the possibility of implementing such a program, but I would not like to include this in the budget message.
I appreciate that because, as I mentioned in the memo, it was a large mistake on my part to have had this slip through the cracks in terms of my requesting this and submitting this through the proper process and timing. So I will be submitting this separately. Outside of, again, making my case on the numbers, this one I really think is a great opportunity. When we have funding outside of city dollars that folks are willing to step up and leverage the policy work that's done for us, the staff support work that's being offered for us, and what's being asked of us, while significant public dollars, I'm not going to minimize those. The investment on the other side of this for the public benefit and the economic development, I think, is a huge upside, and I think it would be a large mistake on our part not to consider. So thank you for considering this. I will be submitting this, I guess, through another process, and I'll work with, I guess, the Rules Committee, or even have a conversation with the City Manager's office offline about how to do this. So given that, as I mentioned, I appreciate your consideration, but I'm sorry to say that I will not be supporting this budget message. This police substation issue for me is a very, very significant issue, and I can't in good conscience support this budget message, even though 90% of it I agree with. But again, I think the investment on our side should not be in opening a substation given the current circumstances. So thank you again, Mayor, for your work.
Councilmember Herrera.
Thank you, Mayor, and I want to thank all my colleagues for all of their input to this, because we all do provide a lot of input, and it is definitely the best year for a budget message I've experienced since I've been on this council, and good example is how short our meeting was last night. Those of us who've been here for a few years remember it certainly ended a lot later in the evening than what we experienced last night. So it's not a perfect situation, but I can tell you that I think things are getting better. And getting better is a lot better than getting worse. So I wanted to thank the mayor for emphasizing public safety and doing all of the things that he has in this budget message to address short-term, medium-term, and long-range things that we need to do make our community safe. I've heard loud and clear from my community, as everybody else has, about the concern of increase in crime, even though I think we need to say every time we talk about this issue that San Jose is still one of the safest cities in this country. Our community has come to expect a very safe community, and we certainly want that to be the case. And so I'm really, really supportive of all of the things that are being offered in this budget, including the $1 million for 21 community service officers, which I think what's really great about that is not only that it's going to rebalance the police department so that more officers can potentially be used to patrol our neighborhoods, which is what I hear from our community over and over again. But they can also be used for some of the things in investigating burglaries, in collecting evidence and doing interviews, those kinds of things that will help facilitate burglary investigations. And so I think that's really a critical. Also, the setting aside the money to provide, assuming we have the negotiations work out, to be able to give raises to our employees. All of us up here want to do that. I mean, if we could give back 10%, I would want to do that. Unfortunately, we can't do it in our, under our current budget conditions, but we want to be able to do that. And so I'm very glad that we're able to put forth the $10 million for public safety employees in 2013, and then another $6.4 million. Gang prevention efforts are absolutely critical. I sit on the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force along with Vice Mayor Nguyen. We know this program works. We saw the results the first 3 months of this year being much better than the previous 3 months of 2012, even though we will have gang issues. We constantly do. We know that it works. I want to thank those who have come forward from Bob Strouder and Hewitt Drainer coming forward to talk about their program. The Aquarius Project. And we've heard from others, the Filipino Youth Coalition and other programs that were not funded this year. But we want you to stay part of the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force, and there are going to be other opportunities through public-private partnerships. I can assure you that we'll be looking to find ways to get programs that are working in our community funded to take care of those needs. And so I wanted to say that. TABS program, I didn't have to write a budget memo because it was included in the mayor's budget message, and I'm really excited that our chief of police is really the one that's bringing forward partially restoring TABS, which we know in the past has helped to reduce burglaries. And the other great benefit of this is it gets kids back in school. So we're getting truants who should be in school, where schools would be collecting the money for those kids having a seat in school, helping school funding, and as well reducing burglaries, which is something we all want to do. And crime prevention specialists. Crime prevention has been very important in my district, and I'm sure other folks too. I really want to say thank you to the police department and our crime prevention unit for spending the hours out in my district, meeting with the community, providing information, answering questions. All of those things are really important in not only reducing crime, but reducing the fear of crime, which sometimes is as big a problem as the crime itself. So, anyway, I just really, really appreciate the public safety issue. The video camera suggestion that in some funding for that's in the mayor's budget message, I think, that it just shows that people are willing to listen to some creative ideas, and those are all really, really important. I also want to thank the mayor for including the Overfelt swimming program, which I can tell you is really important to the kids that live in that area. I know that that's where I learned how to swim, and this is that simple recreational swimming that I think was like 25 cents when I was in Summers. Tells you how old I am. But it's going to be offered to our kids this summer, and I can tell you that there's a lot of young people that are going to learn how to swim this summer, and be in a situation where they'll be able to take care of themselves in the water, and also keeps kids out of doing other things that wouldn't be so positive. So in the library, opening the library in Evergreen, I want to thank all my colleagues for being supportive of that. Evergreen only has one library, and we're the only now district with only one library. We've fortunately got a library that's going to be under construction. We're very excited about that. But Saturday hours in our district is going to mean a lot to the community, so I want to thank everybody up here for being supportive of that. There's so many other things on here, and I won't comment on all of them, but the public safety is absolutely number one, and I'm really glad to see all of these great things that are being done, and I heartily support this message. Thank you.
Councilmember Chu.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a general thank you to the mayor and all the staff for your hard work. And I will be supporting this. The message was a very small request. I noticed that we have added 4 park rangers, and all those efforts will be helping out with the homeless response team. And I would just like to ask a friendly amendment to allow the city manager to have some flexibility of deploying those 4 added park rangers. We have heard from the students from the Independence High School last night, and that park is next to the Independent High School, which has about 8,000 students and was very, very widely used by many of the residents from District 3, District 4, and District 5. And the fact that we're lacking of some park rangers in that park really alert me, because during the day we felt that it's not providing the safest place for the students and for many senior peoples to just strolling in the park, and the maintenance is also a little bit behind. So I'm just asking. I don't know if I need a friendly amendment to just ask to give him some flexibility to the city managers or the PRNS when they deploy this 4 additional park rangers.
Let me just clarify that, because as I understand it, 4 park rangers are anticipated to focus on the Coyote and the Guadalupe, but that will free up time for park rangers that are currently working in those areas to be in other areas. So it adds some flexibility to the system, and they're not specifically limited to those, the homeless encampments specifically. That's not, we're not being that rigid with this. So there's built-in flexibility. So I think if staff can just verify that I understand that correctly, City Manager.
Yes, we have talked about this generally, that once these rangers are added, they will free up the capacity of the existing rangers and be able to better service the whole system.
Okay, so Councilor Chu, I don't think we need any specific direction.
Some improvement in the educational park?
I believe so. Angel, is that accurate? Okay. I don't know that you need to
shaking his head yes.
Great. All right. I'm good to go.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember KALRA.
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to thank you and your staff, as well as City Manager and her staff, for all the work that was put in to putting forward this budget. I also agree that it's certainly a lot less painful than the past few years, and it's good to see some of these services being restored. I especially want to thank my staff, Joseph Opaco and Stephen Aponte, for their work, and I really want to thank Jennifer McGuire and her team, who worked very closely with my staff, and I can only imagine, multiply that by 10, and that's that on top of having to put the budget together. It's a lot of work, so I appreciate it. And I want to thank you, Mayor, for including the Parks Foundation funding. I know that that'll be a good bridge for them to be able to going forward, not necessarily need the city funding, but actually have a good foundation in years ahead. And I also appreciate the funding for the traffic calming program. I'd requested through one of my budget documents $1 million, and it's good to see $1.5 million coming forward for that purpose. I do want to thank Mr. Joyner being here from the Aquarius Project, and my chief of staff over the past several hours from yesterday on into this morning has spoken with a number of folks from the city manager's office and the Parks Department and the Gang Prevention Task Force. just to get a better sense of what happened in terms of the funding. We do understand that it's not necessarily appropriate for us since it's through a process for us to do a sole source kind of recommendation to fund it. However, we certainly look forward to working with Mr. Joyner and the staff to see how they can continue to participate in terms of the good work that they do, particularly in parts of town like mine in South San Jose, and where we've seen an increase in violence in the recent weeks, especially within the African American community, unfortunately. And so I want to make sure and ensure Mr. Joyner, as well as the young gentleman that came to speak, that we're not going to ignore the needs that you have. And I look forward to continuing to work with all of you to see what we can do to ensure that you have the appropriate funding to make sure you continue the good work that you're doing for our community. And I have a question on moving on to the health trust, the suggestion from Councilor Rocha and his memo of the $250,000, and that money I know will be very helpful in terms of leveraging in order for them to get to the 1.3 million. So it's not that we have to necessarily come up with the extra million. Once they have that money, then they can use that as a foundation to go out for other sources. And in regards to the source of the funds of the substation, I know that right now, the amount of money set aside for the substation, there was only a small portion of that, the $250,000 that Councilor Rocha was suggesting, be used for the health trust program. And so I don't know if staff can help illuminate me in terms of the numbers. It mentions $2.146 million fiscal year 2013-14. Now, does that presuppose a January 1st opening of the substation?
Good afternoon, Jennifer McGuire, Budget Director. Yes, it does assume a January 1st opening. However, some staff would start in November, like the police property specialists and some of the vehicle maintenance people. However, I do need to remind you all that that substation is on a contingency plan. So
sure,
to the extent that we needed to rebalance $20 million, it
sure
would not open.
And with that understanding, my understanding is that even if the authorization was given to open the substation January 1st, that it won't actually necessarily open on January 1st because of shift changes, that it's not a logical time necessarily to make that transition. So I bring that up because although the authorization is January 1st, I know that from the discussions we've all had, we want to give the discretion to the chief to determine the best time to do it, given the transition of the officers and shift changes, as well as his administrative duties and making sure there are enough patrol officers out in the street. And so is that estimate too high if it actually doesn't open until March or April?
If there was a delay in opening, yes, there would be extra savings for on a one-time basis next year. When the city manager put together the budget for May 1, we did that in consultation with the police department, who actually wanted a January 1st date off of shift change cycle. So that's what we planned for, because originally, as you recall, it was supposed to be September, but we pushed it to January. So to the extent that I think the police department will do an assessment of that as coming over the next couple of months, but if it is delayed, there would be some savings generated. You're correct.
And since the bulk of the funds that Councilor Rocha referred to from delaying the substation opening would go to pavement maintenance, with the $250,000, I guess what I'm getting at is that if there is a delay, that we have those funds go towards the Health Trust program so that they can start leveraging those funds. In other words, if we know in advance that the substation is not going to open on January 1st, which is likely not to open on January 1st, so it's going to be March or April, what have you, depending on the police department, then the savings would appear maybe enough to cover that $250,000. And so, I don't know what the best way to approach that is, because I know that we still don't know exactly today when it's going to open, even if the authorization is given. But I guess that as Councilor Rocha's memo goes forward in terms of looking at funding the Health Trust program, that there may be funds that we can identify from a delay in the opening that can go to that program. The sooner we know that, the sooner the funds that can get to the Health Trust, the sooner that they can start raising money for the additional, you know, 1 million plus that they need to raise.
So I think there'll be two check-ins. One will be based on what happens with the litigation related to the 20 million, which obviously is happening in July, although we had a 60-day delay on that. And then I think, you know, in the last conversations that we've had with the police chief, is doing that check-in around September, because they will have to ramp up with hiring for a January 1st to have people on board to start training in November. So I think we would be giving an information memo around the September timeframe, which would give a better indication if there would be savings available from a delay or from the contingency plan or what have you.
Okay, well, I think it's premature for me premature for any of us to action at this point regarding the money that we don't even know if it's going to be there. And so, but I think I just want to put that out there because there could be an opportunity for us to identify the funds still from that same source that Councilor Rocha referred to, depending on what happens during those two check-ins. So thank you. And, you know, on one of my budget memos was regarding adding 2 additional code enforcement inspectors. And there were 5 different council members that submitted a total of 4 budget documents in regards to code enforcement officers. They all had little different angles to them, but I think they definitely made it very clear that there's a strong desire from the council to increase our capacity for code enforcement in the neighborhoods. And you know, I think we've done a good job of bolstering our planning capacity for, you know, permitting for businesses, what have you. But I would certainly like to see us get more capacity for neighborhood code enforcement. And so, Mayor, I'm going to put this forward for an up and down vote, an amendment to add my my memo regarding 2 additional code enforcement inspectors. So I'll make a motion to amend to add that.
All right, we have a second from Councilor Campos to amend the motion on the floor.
And Mayor, as you know, I have other memos. I think from years past you preferred us to do one at a time.
Yes, so we can deal them subject by subject.
Okay.
Discussion on the code enforcement inspectors item. First, let me say we are adding, I believe, a single code enforcement officer in the budget. And I've included in my message recommendations to look at how we can increase the capacity for code inspectors who are inspecting apartment buildings, as well as coming back with a possibility of raising the fees after we have finished the audit for code inspection. So I can't support adding more code I'd love to add more code inspection officers. We probably should double or triple the size of the staff to meet all the demand. I just can't support it at this time, and would not support the motion. I think what we're doing in here is a step in the right direction. Obviously, it's not far enough, but I think we're doing all we should at the moment. Just on this motion, I know others want to speak on other items. Anybody want to speak on this motion? Show of hands. Councilman Vice Mayor Nguyen.
Thank you, Mayor. I was actually going to make similar comments. I was going to make reference to Councilmember Oliverio's budget document number 11, where he also asked for 2 additional code enforcement inspectors. But I think that there will be an opportunity for us to look at a possibility of increasing the permit fee. And so when that time comes and when the audit is completed, perhaps that's when we can have a more thorough discussion in regards to any additions of code enforcement officers.
Anybody else on?
So I won't be supporting the motion.
Anybody else on code enforcement officer addition, this amendment? On the amendment, we have a motion on the amendment. On that, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 opposed. That's opposed was Oliverio, Constant, Reed, Nguyen, Herrera, and LICCARDO opposed. Motion fails on a 5-6 vote. Well, a 4-6 vote, because Councilmember CAMIS was stepped out for the moment. So the motion fails.
Thank you, Mayor. And then going on, and thank you for your comments. I know that we are going to continue to look into the issue going forward as the budget situation hopefully improves. I have another budget, another memo regarding opening all library hours. There were a number of different memos that came forward. I would actually prefer if we could have our library hours increase, or at the very least have every library open on Saturdays. But I know that that may be a stretch to get support from my council colleagues. However, I do have a memo to open up the libraries to 4.5 days per week. I think that'll help us incrementally get to where we need to go to have our libraries ultimately frankly, get all our libraries open to 5.5 to 6 days a week like they were a few years back, and certainly have every branch library open on Saturdays. And I think this is one important step to get us there, especially as we have a new library director coming in very soon that we're all very excited about. And so I'd like to make a motion to amend to have all libraries open 4.5 days per week.
All right, we have a motion with second from Councilmember Campos. On that motion, I'm not going to support that motion. As I mentioned in my opening comments, we're increasing the library budget significantly. This council made the policy decision last year, this time, that we should move to get the 4 new libraries open rather than increasing library hours in the branches that we had. And that was done to spread the service across the city and to provide service in neighborhoods that had nothing, rather than increasing the service in the existing neighborhoods. I think that was the right decision. And the budget in front of us includes a significant increase in funding in order to cover the cost of operating those libraries. I'd love to open them all full-time, but we can't. It's a significant amount of money to do that, and it's an ongoing cost. And so I don't support the amendment. Anybody else on the amendment? Councilmember Liccardo?
Yeah, I appreciate the intent of the amendment, but I also won't support it. I think, though, that what I'd like to do as soon as our director is on board is I'd really like to see us analyze the opportunity to look at a universal Saturday opening for our libraries. I recognize we've got some restrictions in the collective bargaining agreement which mandate consecutive 2 days off, but I know there's been some discussion in the community about a consecutive Sunday-Monday recess in library hours to allow for a universal Saturday opening. I suspect that we would see significantly more people able to use libraries, particularly a lot of kids and parents who simply don't have the ability to do it during busy weekdays. So I know there's going to be more conversation about this generally, and I look forward to that, particularly as our resources come back.
Councilor Rocha.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank my colleagues for raising this issue. In the past, I've had this recommendation submitted as well. The reason I backed off it this year, just to share with you my thoughts, is my concern about the library parcel tax extension. And I think, and honestly, be blunt about it in terms of our failure to really have a committed plan to make sure that that doesn't go away. I'd hate for us to ramp up and then not be prepared or make a mistake next year, or this community doesn't support us and remove some of that, and we're going to have to find some or identify some other funding to fill that gap. So then we might be looking at reducing it if we did go forward if we did increase it going forward. So that was where my struggle was. So I appreciate the submittal. Again, I wholeheartedly support it in theory, and regardless of what happens next year, as long as we get on board on the parcel tax, you can find my support next year again. Thank you.
Anybody else on the library issue? Councilor? No. Nope. On the motion to amend regarding the opening library hours, 4.5 days per week. On that motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 opposed. So in favor was KALRA, Chu, and Campos. That motion fails on a 3-8 vote.
Thank you, Mayor. And I have one final, and I just want to thank Councilor Liccardo for mentioning the scheduling. I think that right now the libraries are open Monday to Thursday. They're disadvantaged because there are a lot of Monday holidays, and so a lot of those libraries a lot of weeks are only open 3 days. So I think if we can work on that, I think it's a good idea. Get all the libraries open on Saturday and have a consistent schedule. It'll take a little bit more funding, but I hope our new director will be creative in working with the staff and with the management to make that happen. And then finally, just on public safety. And I certainly appreciate the concern and the clear intention from all my colleagues in terms of the clear importance of public safety. We all know what's been happening in our communities, regardless of rank or crime level, what have you. We certainly know that our neighborhoods aren't as safe today as they were just a short few years ago. And there are people, maybe it's not in all the neighborhoods we live in, maybe it is, but there are certainly some neighborhoods where people don't feel safe even letting their kids outside anymore. That's not the San Jose that any of us, I think, expect or want for our community. And even if we, as was mentioned during the public safety budget discussion from our command staff, even if we ramp up as quickly as we can at this pace, we'll be at the same numbers of police officers in 2014-15, and that's just not acceptable. It's great to have CSOs. CSOs are not a replacement. CSOs, frankly, even if we're fully staffed, would be very helpful in assisting our police officers in doing their job and letting them do police work while the CSOs do some of the administrative type work of getting the reports and so on and responding to some of the calls we can't respond to right now. The money for retention bonuses, unfortunately, I think that we have to find some way to keep officers. I think that that money can be better spent in actually giving pay raises that are ongoing as opposed to a retention bonus. The amount of money we're putting into overtime, our officers just on a human level are not going to be able to keep it up. And we need the money there because we need the officers on the street. Frankly, the concern I have with retention is citywide in every department. There's just a distinction when it comes to police officers because they are leaving, they have options, and they're leaving. Some departments, like in fire, may not have the same retention issues, only because with fire, when they leave, they have to start from ground zero. They have to start from the beginning when they go to a new department. And so they're literally, in many ways, trapped with the pay cuts that they're getting here at the city of San Jose. And I think it's a shame given the hard work that the firefighters are putting on behalf of our residents. I think that ultimately, as our interim chief indicated, the issue is compensation. Right now, our officers can leave to neighboring jurisdictions throughout the Bay Area and get instantly anywhere from 10 to 20% pay raise, depending on what the rank is and which department they're going to. And so I certainly appreciate the effort to try to find ways to retain or find ways to have more academies. But having more academies is no guarantee that the officers are going to stay. We've already lost, I think, over 30 officers this year. We lost 100 in the last fiscal year, and it's not ending anytime soon. And so treading water for the next 2 years is not an option. Our officers can't physically do it. Our neighborhoods can't survive through it. And so I think that we need to do more. And frankly, I have a memo that I think is not even enough. But I understand that we can't really do much more than that. I know that we're budgeted for 1,100 officers. We have less than 1,000. That's a lot of money that we have set aside for increasing our staffing. As was indicated, that might not be realistic in the short term. So if it's not realistic to increase the staffing, we can at least put that money to giving 10% ongoing increases over the next 2 fiscal years and doing everything we can as aggressively as we can to identify other sources of funds as aggressively as this council went after the fiscal reform plan and Measure B and all these other measures that have driven our employees away. We have to be more aggressive in protecting our neighborhoods. And so I'd like to make a motion to amend to add my budget memo that at least gives a different direction to our bargaining team and sets a goal of restoring 10% for all our employees. Even if it can't be done tomorrow, at least the employees know that's our intention.
We have a second, Councilman Campos. So we have a motion on the floor to some additional funding for police officers. I'm not going to support the motion, although, if we didn't have to add another $9 million to cover the costs, an increase in retirement costs, we could probably afford a pretty significant pay raise for the police officers. As it is, we're setting aside $10 million for compensation increases for police officers and $9 million for retirement cost increases. So it is retirement cost increases that is eating our lunch in lots of different ways, and one of those ways is in pay. And until we get the retirement costs under control, we're going to continue to have to pay them, and that just shrinks what we've got available for pay. Unfortunately, we don't have it under control, although we're trying. So this would put a huge hole in the budget and would require us to cut services someplace else. And I think we've done all the cutting of services that we should do, and so I don't support the motion. Debate on this, comments on this motion. On the motion, all in favor? Opposed? I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 opposed. No, 7 opposed. KALRA, Chu, and Campos in favor, and Councilmember Oliverio out of the room, so it fails on a 3-7 vote.
Mayor, I want to thank you, Mayor, for indulging me and the rest of my council colleagues on these memos, and I do appreciate the budget message. I think there are some very good things in it. I won't be able to support it. I think that we need to do more for public safety. Thanks.
Councilor Campos.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I wanted to thank you for the thoroughness in your budget message. Trying to please everyone while not pleasing everyone is very difficult, and I appreciate your effort. Wanted to start off by thanking you for, I know I submitted a number of budget documents, and I wanted to thank you for taking each one of all of ours and trying to incorporate somewhere where it makes sense. Crime analysis, more crime analysis positions in the police department. I know you included that. I, made a request to really beef up our ability to suppress gang activity, and thank you for the $4 million in overtime funds and backfilling of patrol. Restoring the TABS unit. TABS was around when I was in middle school. I remember it was at Fisher.
Were you ever a client of the services? No, definitely not. Never once.
So it's definitely a service that we all need. Some of the other things, additional services in homeless, dealing with their homeless issue. Get Fit Camp for Kids. It's something that I know that we're going to be taking a look at. With the Health Trust coming out here and basically saying we got to take a look at what our neighborhood markets are feeding or having available for our community, but it all ties into keeping our kids active and busy. So those are just to name a few. I do have a couple of requests, and I'm actually going to offer up a friendly amendment to the maker of the motion. One being, I know that Councilmember Rocha in his budget document number 59 had asked for a hybrid model of youth centers in high needs areas. I think one can argue that there's, that we have a number of high needs areas, but there are some areas that kind of rise to the top, with Alum Rock Youth Center being one of them. Right now it's under reuse. The provider is doing a good job providing the services, so long as the youth qualify for the program, which means on a given day you could have a number of kids that are turned away because they don't go to the school that provides the after school funding that you have to sign up for. When we look at our kids' ability and actually wanting to stay off the streets and go into a place that can help them stay safe, and having to turn them around or turn them away, I don't think that's part of any of our goals. So I would ask the maker of the motion if she would accept my memo dated 6/10 that states to accept the mayor's March budget message with the following amendments. That the city manager should evaluate and recommend during the council mid-year budget a plan to implement budget document number 59 and open up one community center in high needs area. I've recommended the Alum Rock Youth Center. In addition, my memo also talked about adding janitorial service. One of the things as I was doing my research, I found out, and my memo says that this facility is cleaned 2 days out of the week. It's actually cleaned 3 days out of the week, which includes restrooms. Now, anyone that's ever been in a youth center or even been in any of our public schools know that our restrooms, those restrooms have to be cleaned daily. And so I would ask that that we look at that, at least for the cleanliness and sanitation of these facilities, that if we're going to provide that service and that's in their contract, that we should take the responsibility to make sure that we're doing it right. So I would ask the maker of the motion if she would accept that.
Councilmember Campos, I really appreciate the intent. I guess what I'm interested more in is actually during the mid-year budget that we asked staff to evaluate both of your proposals in your memo. I think that we should give staff the opportunity to evaluate this to see if we have the funding to fund something to both proposals that you have in your memo. And so I would incline to support having staff look at the possibility and evaluating this prior, instead of implementing that without knowing if we have adequate funding for it.
So that's the intent of my memo, is to ask staff to go back and do this evaluation.
Okay, if it's an evaluation without implementation, then that's something that I would I can accept, but not to implement it during the mid-year budget.
So we would, I believe we would, my intent is that at mid-year, based on the staff's evaluation, if it is something that they deem possible or feasible, then I would expect this council to take action on it.
Well, what the council does at mid-year will be up to the council.
Right. So that's the intent. I'm not saying to do it tomorrow or do it July 1st, but as we evaluate, as we get the feedback during mid-years, that that we take it up. But I want it to be in the attention of staff so that they're looking at it. Okay, thank you. And then the other...
Check with the seconder. Councilmember Herrera, I think, had the second. Okay with the seconder? It's all right. So we have a friendly amendment to referral this to staff.
Okay, thank you. And then the second one being back to senior transportation, and I did a memo. I would ask for a friendly amendment to accept my memo dated 6/7/2013 to allocate an additional $32,000 for the retention and extension of paratransit and van service for senior transportation, in particular with Mayfair. Mayfair is not near any bus line. It's also, the facility was built with parking, but not enough parking close enough to the to the entrances where seniors who have difficulty moving around are going to be able to get in. One of the benefits of the paratransit van service is they drop you off up front, and you're able to get assistance coming in. So I would ask that you accept this friendly amendment.
Councilmember Campos, again, appreciate the intention, but I think that we have several community centers where additional senior transportation services are needed, and I don't want to pit one senior center against another. I think that this is, perhaps again mid-year or next year, we have an opportunity for staff to evaluate how the senior transportation services, whether they're adequate for seniors or not. But at this time, I would not consider the friendly amendment.
Okay. And let me just add one thing to this conversation. In August, we will be talking about how we might spend additional funding if we were to go to the ballot for a tax increase. And I think the category of community centers has to be part of that discussion, and how we restore services to community centers as well as the other parts of the city. This would be an issue I think we would talk about in terms of services and the capacity. It's not just about the hours of operation, which obviously would be part of the conversation, but I would expect you to bring this up in August as we go through that.
Okay, well, thank you, and therefore I'll withdraw the friendly amendment request. Thank you.
Councilmember Liccardo.
Thanks, Mayor. I also want to echo the thanks, certainly to Jennifer and her team over at the budget office, and to Mayor and Armando and their budget team as well. I know there's been a lot of hard work and a lot of difficult compromises to make as you juggle the many needs in the city. Thanks in particular for the commitment to the homeless. I know that's a substantial investment, but one we badly need. And also thanks for the support for an initiative to see how we can fill our empty storefronts. I'm grateful to Councilmembers Herrera and Campos for supporting that initiative initially, and seeing how we can start on a pilot that can boost the streetscapes in many of our neighborhood business districts in downtown. I also want to commend the mayor particularly on the pushing for funding for Hire Ahead for our police department. I think we all recognize that simply throwing more money to try to hire officers at this point won't get us more officers. The real critical path is figuring out how we can get enough folks trained and in place, and I think we all know we need more officers badly. I wanted to ask a question or two about the MBA 29, and that relates to the card clubs and the shift in supervision and enforcement. And I just want to understand clearly what the jurisdictional lines are likely to be as a result of that MBA and, of course, the endorsement of that MBA through the mayor's budget message. As I understand it, the police would retain responsibility for permit and licensing and investigations. The finance would take over auditing and compliance. But as I read the MBA, it wasn't clear to me compliance with what? That is finance simply checking books to make sure numbers match expectations and that we're getting the revenue we need? Or are compliance issues relating to the permit and compliance issues with regard to the license also being somehow or another being overseen by finance?
So I'd like Ed to answer this, and one reason why we asked for a little more time is we're still sorting through some of these fine lines, but Ed can comment on
Sure.
that.
Thank you. Councilmember Ed Chicot, Assistant City Manager. City Manager hit it on the head. We are still evaluating the dimensions of responsibility, including regulatory compliance, compliance with minimum internal controls, all the permit requirements associated with permitting of the card rooms, and how that responsibility would be divided between the finance department and the police department. So it really is a work in progress, and the budget message direction would keep us going down that path. But ultimately, would need to come back with specific recommendations, potentially in the form of ordinance amendment, in order to codify responsibilities. But again, quite a bit of work yet to happen.
And that would come back to full council before it gets implemented?
Yes, it would.
Okay, great. Well, you know my bias and all that. I don't mind it if the accountants aren't in the police department, but ultimately when it comes to compliance with conditions relating to safety, I'm hoping that there's somebody with a badge who's there doing the enforcing. I wanted to raise an issue and seek a friendly amendment with regard to an item on page 11 relating to traffic calming, and I know that Councilmember Herrera and I had conversations about this because I recall I know that she was a strong advocate for this funding along with Councilmember Rocha. I haven't looked at those budget documents that were forwarded by Councilmembers Herrera or Rocha recently, but in conversation I had with the mayor, and certainly there's now a public proposal out that Councilmember Herrera and I have authored to look at how we can streamline the implementation of traffic calming. My background concern is that this $1.5 million allocated over 2 years could be spent very quickly on a lot of studies and very little traffic calming, based on prior years' experience with pushing for more money for traffic calming. So I would like to ask for a friendly amendment that we would commence the spending, the expenditure of the funds after council has had an opportunity to discuss and make some decision about whether we choose to streamline implementation of traffic calming.
That would be fine. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
That's okay with the seconder? Yes, it is. All right. Friendly amendment is accepted.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your consideration of the friendly amendment. With regard to the health trust recommendation, I appreciate Councilmember Rocha making the attempt to find money to support this worthy program. I had a quick question for Jennifer about how procedurally we could potentially make this work, recognizing that it's not in the message now, but as I understand it, the request is essentially for $250,000 over a period of 3 years. I looked at the health trust pro forma budget. I see that some of the money it's requested is essentially capital money to support the purchase of capital equipment in the stores to help them make the shift from liquor stores to grocery stores or something much closer to that. And so the question I had, twofold. One is, is that the decision's not made today, can it be made throughout the year for this council to go back to either C&C funds within any particular council district to purchase those capital items? That would be question one. And then question two, could the council decide at any point during the year that they'll go to council general to support some portion of that money?
Jennifer McGuire, Budget Director. I don't know the specifics of the capital expenditures, and I have to take a look at it to see if it was complies with the use of the C&C funds. But yes, you could come back at any given council meeting. Using council general is definitely open because that's a general funding source. We'd have to look a little closer on the C&C, but you could really theoretically look at that on any given Tuesday during the year.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Because I recognize since the $250,000 isn't going to be spent all in 1 year, it seems to me we could at least get a head start on this in year one by looking at some of these options. You know, I think we've all been talking about the need to improve the public health and the health environment in our communities for many years. It seems like this is a real concrete opportunity for us to make some headway. So I look forward to working with Councilmember Rocha and my colleagues to do that. Finally, I had one issue I just wanted to address with regard to the Mayor's Gang Task Force and the funding. You know, we have this repeated instance of Groundhog Day where whether it was with the old HNVF funds or CDBG or the Mayor's Gang Task Force, you know, this council has really made, I think, a wise policy decision to delegate decision-making about those funding decisions to panels of community members, staff who are uniquely knowledgeable in those areas, in the hope that council would stay out of it, that we would not intervene in necessarily political ways, which we as council members inevitably will be political. And I think as much as I value the great services that many of those nonprofits bring to our city, particularly with regard to the Mayor's Gang Task Force and gang prevention and intervention, I think it is, you know, I'm proud that my colleagues have continued to follow the course of not meddling in those decisions. Those decisions really are best made by folks who are closest to the issues, and I expect to simply approve what has been recommended by that panel, recognizing that if there are opportunities to find other ways to help those nonprofits, we all try to do that. In any event, thank you very much for the Mayor's budget message, Mayor, and I look forward to supporting.
Thank you. I think that concludes the comments on the message, with the exception of Councilmember Oliverio.
Thank you, Mayor Reed, and the challenges that you've put forth to managing a certain amount of money is, I don't know, Herculean. We've always had to deal with what we want and what we can't get and the things that we would like to have, so thank you. Thank you kindly to the Budget Office. I echo the responsiveness and the thoroughness, and when we're trying to get accurate information and share with the public, the Budget Office is there. I wanted to ask Jennifer McGuire, what would it look like if we were doing this every 2 years? If you could just briefly imagine this, you know, take a break from all the level of detail, come on down, relax, shake it out, but what do you think this would be like if we just had this conversation every 2 years? What would the in-between time look like? Would we just have more mid-year budget reviews? How would that turn out?
I can imagine myself on the beach. No, just kidding. No, in all honesty, we have looked at the 2-year budget concept. I think until our economy gets more stable, we have more stable expenditures on retirements, I don't think this is the time to look at it, because I do think we'd be back at council revising and constantly updating our revenues and our expenditures, and you could be in danger of overcommitting funds and then having to pull back, or overcutting on the other hand. And I think that I'd like to see us kind of get ourselves out of the deficit mode and more stable future before we would more seriously look at that.
Okay, so if I'm just to paraphrase, the predictability will be less over a 2-year period, even though you have very good accuracy on depicting when different revenues are coming in, reporting back to us from the state, for example, but there could be the circumstance of committing to an item and then mid-year, which would be 1 year instead of 2, you might actually have to reduce force because the decisions made didn't anticipate a downturn or something?
Correct.
Then do other major cities, they do it every year or every 2 years?
Most every major city does it on an annual basis. There are some jurisdictions, I haven't looked at it in a while, do it on a 2-year basis, but it does create its own set of challenges as I've described.
Okay, well, thanks a lot. We'll see you next week.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve the message with the multiple friendly amendments that we've discussed. On that motion, all in favor? Opposed? Count 1, 2 opposed. KALRA and ROCHA opposed. Motion carries on a 9-2 vote. Thank you very much for your support. I want to acknowledge a great deal of hard work went into this by Armando Gomez and my office staff, in addition to the city manager's budget office and finance office and lots of other people. This is a huge undertaking. It's $2.6 billion, I think, total in front of us. We spend most of our time talking about the general fund, but that's only a third of what actually has to be decided, and there's a lot of work that goes unsung in those other funds. And so I want to thank the staff for making sure that they get handled properly and get taken care of, even though we don't maybe ever mention their name, and that's probably a good thing for some of those funds, that they just get handled. With that, we will turn to the next item, which is the budgets themselves, now that we've got the message on that. So 3.9 is the 2013 operating and capital budgets and schedule of fees and charges. We've already had the public testimony on this category, but it's time for some council discussion. Vice Mayor Nguyen.
Thank you, Mayor. I submitted a memo dated June 5th, 2013 to the Rules Committee, but since we're talking about the schedule of fees and charges, I wanted to bring this item up, and that is the asking park staff to remove non-commercial photography fee in our city public parks. As you've probably all read a column in Scott's Herald a couple weeks ago that talks about one of our parks ranger turning students away from taking prom pictures at a public park. And so this is something that I think it needs a little bit of clarification, because we are not charging non-commercial photography fee, and non-commercial photography include personal family pictures, prom, students project, personal arts, but it's not very clear in a public parks. And so, we have situations where park rangers would ask residents or visitors to show him or her a permit in order to take the photos. And so I just wanted to give Angel an opportunity to clarify this, and if it's something that we require our residents to obtain a photo permit, then I would make a recommendations that we eliminate or remove this requirement, so that people, residents and visitors who visit our public parks would have the opportunity to take photos.
Okay. Yeah, Angel Rios, Assistant Director, Parks, Recreation, Neighborhood Services. Vice Mayor, thanks for the recommendation. The photo permit fee is triggered by commercial, political, portrait, or planned photography. This issue has really brought to light the need to really clarify, especially in the areas of portrait and planned photography. I think everything else is pretty clear in terms of commercial, non-commercial. So we actually welcome your recommendation and would like the opportunity to go back, review it, revise the policy, and then go forward to clarify commercial versus non-commercial uses in each of those categories.
Great. So we're still charging a fee for commercial photography, which includes people who wants to produce documentaries, motion pictures, student filming, activities that actually take an extensive number of hours, and also a lot of planning, and they're going to be occupy our parks for a longer period of time. So we would still charge a fee for that, but we would not charge a fee for non-commercial photography.
That is correct. That's the portion of the policy that we would clarify.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Councilor LICCARDO.
Yeah, sorry to put you on the spot again, Angel, but why bother to even charge a fee at all for even commercial photography? I mean, if Ansel Adams wants to come out, if Ansel Adams were still alive, and feature one of our parks, and thereby make money off of the beauty of our parks and hopefully thereby spreading the word about the beauty of San Jose parks, why wouldn't we want to just let them?
Yeah, at first glance, it seems pretty simple, like, you know, it seems kind of commonsensical, would just let people take pictures. But when you look at situations where people, for example, are planning a wedding and spend a lot of time planning a wedding and are looking to take a picture at a certain location, the permit allows us to actually give them that, you know, that setting.
To exclude people. Is that the idea? So you don't have kids running through the background?
Correct. Yeah, correct. And we've looked at other cities, you know, San Diego, New York. There's 6 or 7 other cities with similar amenities, and they pretty much do the same thing. So in some respects, it's about how you control access for those kinds of situations. Now, the flip side to that also is the way we implement. And the unfortunate, you know, part about that situation is that there was more to it, right? It wasn't, you know, we had 250, you know, youth converging on a site. We had people that had, you know, were trying to take wedding pictures, and, you know, we had people in the background, and at the same time we had a taco festival down the street. So we had 12,000 people, and so, you know, the way it was portrayed, it was as if, you know, the ranger had nothing else to do and was just kind of picking on people, and it wasn't the case. It was really about crowd control and trying to, you know, reconcile both competing desires. But having a permit fee with a clear distinction between commercial and non-commercial, I think should mitigate this issue.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Councilor KANSEN.
Yeah. This policy's always bugged me because having been a photographer for years, every city around us allows people to go in their parks and take pictures. And you know, the way it is now, if you and your family have a favorite park and you want to go have your picture taken there to send out on your Christmas cards, it costs you $100. And it's, I think it's a bad policy. I mean, you pay for the parks, you enjoy the parks. If you want a picture of your family professionally done in a park and you're a San Jose resident, I believe you should be able to do so. Also, our businesses that photographers who pay their business license and, you know, pay all their fees and do everything to operate in our city should be able to do so. And I've actually been stopped at the Rose Garden before just taking pictures of flowers and told I couldn't do it, even though I wasn't making any money because I had a professional looking camera, that I couldn't do it. And this was a number of years back before I was on the council. So I think we should take a really critical look at it. It's, these are public places. The public has a right to go there and be there and take pictures. And I think if somebody is going to do something where they're going to be there for 3 or 4 hours and film a movie, like, you know, we've had movies filmed downtown San Jose, then that, you know, that's something different. Or if somebody, it's no different than if you want to use the picnic area in a park and somebody has it reserved, you can't just go sit there because they have it reserved. You can do this, you can have a sensible policy about photography that says if somebody is renting the Japanese gardens for a wedding, you can't take pictures during that time because it's reserved. I think there's ways we can work around it. I'd be more than willing to give my 6 or 7 cents along the way as we look at this, because I think we have taken away a source of pride from our residents who want to go get mementos and perhaps professional pictures in our parks.
Councilor KHAMIS.
Yeah, I want to echo the comment from Pete and my other colleagues. I think we should just eliminate the whole fee to begin with. How much do we actually make out of this endeavor?
Annually, it's approximately $30,000 when you consider photo and.
I don't even think it's worth the bad publicity to have it. I mean, the $30,000 is not even enough to pay for one park ranger. I would think that just the negative publicity alone warrants well over $30,000 worth of headaches for us. I mean, it's been not just in the San Jose Mercury News, but the Almaden Times has written up on other circumstances, not the one that you spoke about. But we've had 2 other articles in the San Jose, in my district's local newspaper. Just really bad publicity, and got a couple of emails on that. I think it is not worth the $30,000. I think I would strongly consider it being removed completely, and in favor of some reserving the park area instead, like we do at the picnic areas. I think that's a much better strategy to go.
Well, one of the things that we were hoping was that to use this recommendation as an opportunity to really, pause a little bit, really take a look at all the different angles, because there's multiple perspectives to this issue, and by eliminating the fee, we would definitely facilitate one aspect and one need, but we would also be creating some other tensions in terms of who's going to, who's going to mediate between, a fight of two patrons who want to take wedding pictures, for example. And so, we would like to, respectfully suggest that you give us an opportunity to go back, maybe confer with each of your offices, those of you who are interested in giving us some additional feedback, convene some key stakeholders, and then perhaps give us an opportunity to come back with a revised policy. If that suits your, your desires, then we can go forward. If not, we could rescind at that time.
Thank you.
Let me also say that we have asked our Parks, Recreation, Neighborhood Services Department to greatly increase the amount of revenues that they bring in. Fees for service is one of the ways we do it, and $30,000 is a lot of money for a lot of things in that department, so I'm not going to walk away from it, but I think that Angel's description of what we ought to do is a good one. We'll refer to them. I think we'll come up with a workable solution that probably won't generate much publicity, good or bad. Councilmember Oliverio.
I just might add that as an aggregate, 30,000 is small, but for my guesses, the more photographed places are probably a few. Might be overfilled Chinese gardens, it might be the other Japanese gardens, might be the Rose Garden, and if I would just throw it out there when the conversation comes back, maybe those dollars are allocated to those things, because maybe 5,000, 6,000, depending on the location, might add more improvement to what people want to photograph.
Councilmember Herrera.
Yeah, well, I'm very sympathetic to prom goers who want to take pictures. There are professionals out there that make movies and everything else, and we certainly wouldn't want to have a free rein on it for those professional uses. But I think staff's got the right idea, because it sounds simple, but when you start looking into it, nothing's as simple up here, I guess, when you start changing policy. So I'll look forward to hear what staff has to say about it.
One of the benefits of having a city of 1 million people, there's a lot of different points of view. We need to get a motion on the floor. We have 3 resolutions that is recommended by the staff. Motion is approved, the 3 resolutions under item 3.9. On that motion, all in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Motion is approved. We're now ready to start the consent calendar, I think. And Jennifer and her staff are going to go back and start working furiously, getting ready for the next iteration. Consent calendar. Are there any items on the consent calendar council would like to pull for discussion?
2.6, please.
2.6, Councilor Constant, Councilor LICCARDO.
2.8.
2.8. Any requests from the public to speak on the consent calendar? I believe not. All right, on the rest of the calendar, have a motion to approve the balance of the consent calendar. On that motion, all in favor? Opposed? None opposed. That is approved. Item 2.6, Councilmember Constant.
Just a brief report on the Police and Fire Retirement Board meeting that happened last Thursday. The board received and accepted the Cortex Consultants report on the next phase of governance reform and potential independence. The board requested that the report be forwarded to the administration and has set up a joint committee with the Federated Board to discuss how quickly they can implement those items that do not require council approval or charter changes, things that they can do individually on their own, and are requesting that we, as the administration, as well as the mayor and council, work diligently in bringing those reforms forward. Thanks.
Councilmember LICCARDO, item 2.8.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate Jeff Ruster being here. I don't think I gave him a heads up, but just a quick question. I know that the memo makes mention of the fact that the alternative service delivery recommendation would be inherent part of the budget that we're approving, I believe, today. And I'm wondering if you've completed the analysis and if there is a specific recommendation at this time, are we moving to the alternative route?
Right, so today really what is being approved is the concept and the budget. It's our intent to bring back to the City Council in August the actual unique service agreement with the rationale for why we are proposing a unique services agreement.
Is this a sole source, or are we RFPing it, how we do this?
Under the unique services, it would be a direct contract with the Work to Future Foundation.
Okay. So based on
Councilmember, there are some questions about that unique services, so whether we can do it. And we are working with staff. We had sent a memo up identifying some concerns, and it will have to come back, but whether or not it's an RFP or unique services, the jury's still out.
Okay. Deb, it looked like you were ready to say.
Well, actually, Rick said in his, from his perspective, what I was also going to say is that we're still evaluating from the administrative perspective the criteria for unique services to ensure that whatever we bring you in terms of our recommendation is grounded in, solid staff work.
Okay, I look forward to that. I know this is a challenging environment for you to be operating the Work to Future program. I think your funding's been cut roughly by 2/3, and so I'm just very grateful for your continued great work. I've heard rumors that there's no expectation the funding from the federal sources is going to go anywhere but down. Do you have any sense about what you can project in the next year or two based on what you're hearing from?
Everything we hear from the state and from the feds and all the key stakeholders in the workforce communities that the funding will be reduced. We just, we're going to next year, starting July 1st with a 10% reduction. About half of that was due to sequestration. The other 5% was due to just the normal funding cuts that we've grown accustomed to.
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
We need a motion on, we have a motion to approve item 2.8 regarding Workforce Investment Act programs. On that motion, all in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Motion is approved. That concludes the consent calendar. Item 3.1 is next. That's the report of the city manager.
Mayor, I have no report today. Thank you.
We'll move then to item 3.3, an ordinance implementing Tier 2 pension plan for new police employees. We have a motion to approve. On that motion, all in favor? Opposed? None opposed. That's approved. Item 3.4, report on bids and awards of contract for lighting, retrofit equipment, and services. We have a motion to approve. I have a request to speak. We'll take that now. Mark Fisher.
Hello, my name is Mark Fisher with ABM Electrical out of Pleasanton, California. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. Just wanted to address protest that was made against the award to ABM on this contract, alleging that somehow we attempted to gain advantage over other potential bidders when submitting the bid. And I just wanted to assure you that I was the one responsible for putting together the bid and attended the bid walk on my own, and certainly did not attempt to gain any unfair advantage. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think I properly introduced this item when I described it because we have to consider the appeal by Retrotech Energy Services. I don't believe anybody's here to speak from Retrotech Energy Services. I don't have a card. If there is somebody, I need to know that they wish to speak. We just heard Mark Fisher speak from ABM Electrical staff.
Good afternoon, Mayor. I'm Mark Giovanetti from Finance Purchasing. Staff did notify both of the bidders, the appellate as well as the recommended bidder, that this item would be heard today. And we did get confirmation from ABM, who you just heard from, that they would be here. We did not hear anything from Retrotech, the appellate.
Mayor, perhaps I could modify my motion because I got it out kind of quick. So the motion would be to deny the appeal and approve the rest of the recommendations.
All right, we have a motion. I don't know who had the second.
Councilmember Herrera had.
Councilmember Herrera has a second. Okay, so that's the motion is to deny the appeal and approve the request for bids items. Further on that, Nobody here from Retrotech, right? Okay. On the motion, all in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Those recommendations are approved. Item 3.5 would be the next item, the Business Tax Amnesty Program Extension. Motion is to approve. Councilmember Constant.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I've been a supporter of our amnesty program and the extension. I'm just worried about continuing to extend the program on and on. I just wanted to say on the record, I think this should be the last extension, and the amnesty should terminate at some point. You know, we just have to hold people accountable if they haven't taken advantage of the program. In my mind, amnesty programs are for a short period of time, and I know we've had some extenuating circumstances and all the things that we have done, and we've asked finance to do a lot of jumping through hoops along the way. I just wanted to make it clear that I don't support further extensions of this as we go forward.
Yeah, Julia Cooper, Director of Finance. That is our intent as well. As we noted in the staff report, we were doing a second mailing for those people that hadn't complied, and we only got about 2/3 the way through it. It was very successful. We couldn't keep up with it. The phones were so busy. So this extension will allow us to give everybody a second notice so we can get everybody in the system.
And one more question since you're down here. I know we moved from a letter format to a postcard format. Is that correct?
Yeah, the postcards actually went into an envelope because of kind of security kind of issues, privacy issues, but it was a postcard, and I think it got more attention when people opened it up.
The one comment I got, and I've been meaning to call you and I haven't, is when we did it before with the letter, we had a form where people could fill out to say, you know, I closed my business on this date and here's the proof, and there's no, didn't seem to be on the postcard from what they said, and then the web address was difficult to access because it was shown without the www, and if people didn't put the www, it didn't resolve properly. Okay. So just so you know, because we need to make sure people have an opportunity to explain why and when they've terminated. So I put a help ticket in to IT to fix the resolving issue, but just wanted to let you know that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Herrera.
I was just going to say that it looked like it was pretty successful, this program, judging by the number of people that were over there waiting in line to take advantage of it. And I guess I was just curious, did you have folks that weren't even notified? I mean, you probably had people just coming out of the woodwork. So I think it kind of, and it's getting people actually now visible, so you can go back to them on subsequent years and collect the tax. I wonder if you had any comment on it.
It's basically getting people into the database and dealing with the people that will be exempt on a going forward basis as well. And as I said, that second notification process really got people's attention, and so we kind of had to back out on the number we were sending out every week because we couldn't handle it in the phone system. So this will just really give us an opportunity to get people all contacted a second time.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay, thank you, Julia. Did we get a motion on this? I think we did. Come on, Councilmember Constant on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Motion is approved. Item 4.1 is next. That's Municipal Water Systems Water Supply Assessment for Zanker Road Materials Recovery Facility.
Move to approval.
We have a motion to approve. Request to speak. Eric Schoenauer.
Good afternoon, Mayor Reed, members of the council. My name is Eric Schoenauer, and the Schoenauer Company represents Zanker Road Resource Management on this application. The existing Zanker Material Processing Facility is already a critical facility in the city's waste processing system, and our proposed indoor material resource facility is an even more critical facility for the city in order to achieve the Green Vision goal of diverting 100% of the city's waste away from landfills. You cannot achieve 100% diversion without creating new advanced facilities like the ones that we have proposed. And the council already approved this project back in 2008, 2009. What you're doing today is adjusting our zoning to allow a phased implementation because we realized that the project was too big to just do up front all in one phase. So this will have a phased implementation and a modest increase in the landfill height to allow capacity for residual items that can't be recycled, no matter how hard we try. So in the spirit of the Green Vision, we hope that you will approve this zoning. We did want to take the time to thank the staff for all of their efforts to process the EIR addendum and the review of our project. We also would like to thank some of the environmental groups that are active in the Bay Shore area and Alviso area. We've been in dialogue with Autobahn as well as the committee to complete the refuge so that we understand how our facility interacts with the surrounding environment and how we may move forward in a way that addresses some of their concerns in the broader area. So with that, we'd ask you to support the staff recommendation and Planning Commission recommendation to approve the zoning as well as the water supply assessment. Thank you.
Mayor, let me see if anybody wishes to speak on 4.2, which is the zoning related to
Mayor,
water
we're on
supply.
4.1. I think Eric is speaking to 4.2.
Right, so I think I'm just going to take the testimony on both of them.
Yeah, they're related, so I'm speaking to 4.1, 4.2.
We will vote separately on them, take them separately, but I've got some people who want to speak, so we'll just take the testimony, either 4.1 or 4.2. Jim Piazzo, Eileen McLaughlin.
Good afternoon. Each and every one of you guys right now basically are in, well, you guys are allowing it to happen. You're allowing it to happen, an environmental disaster on your shift right now, because bottom line is this: you just doubled and tripled a guy's tonnage rate that's discharging 20% lead in the bay right now. I don't understand it, because the more weight you put on that, the more lead's going to come out. Again, why don't you guys want to face up to it? Again, this is the most toxic. It should be the super site in the state of California, and we are all thinking it's going to be ignored, Mr. Reed, and I don't understand why. Because again, you know what's out there, and you know the knowledge. The knowledge. A picture says 1,000 words, and again, if you keep ignoring it and ignoring it, it's good. The truth will come out, I guarantee it. Good day.
Eileen McLaughlin.
I'm Eileen McLaughlin, representing the Citizens Committee to Complete the Refuge. On behalf of the wildlife habitats and the Don Edwards Refuge, we're delighted that Envision 2040 included new policies to protect the refuge habitat values and to minimize or avoid impact on special status species. In this project supplement, the city acknowledged, too, that the Salt Pond Restoration Project increased the wetland value of San Jose's baylands. These are considerations that could not have been addressed in the project's early documents, but they apply. None of the documents mention a key outcome that food processing will produce. That outcome will be permanent, pervasive odor level that is not found in the document's odor discussions, recommendations, or conclusions. Odor consideration under CEQA is about what humans sense, never the level of what animals detect. Their odor response will never be eliminated by the proposed methods, making this project a permanent animal attractant on a site that never did so before. The vector management plan proposes that attracted animals will not be permitted to eat, but they will be concentrated at a site where the same critters will disperse into grasslands, wetlands, and the refuge in search of a meal. These are flatlands where small ground-dwelling species, including special status species, are the vast majority of wildlife. Their burrows, nests, eggs, and newborn will be easy prey to attract raccoons, possums, skunks, rats, ravens, and gulls. This impact will be permanent and ongoing. The supplement says the planning department will confer with biologists in the refuge regarding the first year of use of the vector management plan. 1 year is nowhere near enough, nor is it okay that the mitigation monitoring plan does not address this impact, nor is there a requirement that the permits include it. Please amend this project to ensure that Envision 2040 is applied. Thank you.
That concludes the public testimony on items 4.1 and 4.2. Staff, any comments on either one before the council takes them up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Related to 4.2, this is a plan development zoning, so assuming the council does approve the plan development zoning this afternoon, the next step in the process would be for staff to work with an applicant on a plan development permit. That permit would include the mitigation measures that were incorporated in the original EIR and the subsequent staff review, environmental review that was completed for this most recent plan development zoning. As you heard from several of the speakers, the issue related to food processing, food waste processing on the site does have a bit of a change from what had occurred previously on the property. It is something that staff has been looking at. We think it is an issue that is very solvable, that is not rise to the level of significance, and that is why we're recommending approval of the proposed project. But there are conditions that would be through a development permit that I think go beyond just a one-year check-in on how the facility is operating and how it works with the wildlife refuge next door. And so those are the types of issues we would be looking at the development permit stage. Is it appropriate to put more of an ongoing reporting responsibility and working relationship in that permit itself?
Thank you. I just want to disclose that in preparation for this meeting, a member of my staff met with Eric Schoenauer, the Schoenauer Group, and I want to note that when we committed ourselves to becoming a zero-waste city, we committed ourselves to doing some things differently. There's just no way possible to do it without having some additional facilities and some additional capacities besides taking things to the dump. So this is one of those facilities that will allow us to handle a large and important part of our waste stream. And I support the staff recommendation. I think they'll get all the minor details sorted out during the permitting process, and that we will deal with those issues that have been raised. We're going to have two motions, one on 4.1 and one 4.2, but we'll take whatever comments or questions the council have, either one. Councilmember KHAMIS.
I just wanted to ask a question, maybe from the Schoenauer Group, if you can, just from the testimony that I got here, is there going to be a lead problem seeping into the bay?
You know, resource recovery and landfill facilities are about the most regulated thing in the state of California. So we have to comply to strict both city as well as state regulations. So there's no identified problem. So I don't know what the speaker is talking about.
Thank you.
And question answered. Anybody else? All right, is there a motion on 4.1? Do we have a motion on 4.1 by Councilmember Chu?
Chu and Constant.
All right. On that motion, all in favor? Opposed? None opposed? On item 4.2, Councilmember Chu.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Right, I have a motion on item 4.2 to approve the staff recommendation. On the motion, all in favor? Opposed? None opposed. That's approved. Next item would be 4.3, a vacation of Springbrook Avenue and Canyon Ridge Drive. We have a motion to approve. No request from the public to speak, nothing from the staff. On the motion to approve, all in favor? Opposed? None opposed. The motion is approved. Item 6.1, report on bids and awards of contract for the 2013 remove and replace pavement project. We have a motion to approve. On the motion, all in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Motion is approved. Item 9.1 is transfer of housing assets to successor agency to the San Jose Redevelopment Agency. We have a motion to approve. On the motion, all in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Motion is approved. It takes us to open forum. We have no request to speak under the open forum. We are done with our agenda. We are adjourned.